Feel free to make one up if you need to.
That giggle, though. I wanted to hit on something real fast that he mentioned about the Outer Worlds, and then we can...
Hit on your mom? What?
Can you please fuck off?
You're locked into the Quad Damage Podcast. I'm Deadforge, rolling deep with Midnight Medium and Robert Yapp. Today we're flipping the format and zeroing in on the hottest tremors shaking the FPS scene. The GZDoom versus UZDoom split, Game Pass price hikes, Unreal Redux, and a bit of Halo Campaign Evolve. So let's lock and load. It's time to dive in. Let's get booming.
What?
Let's get booming. So for those of you just joining us, the GZDoom and UZDoom scene seems to be in turmoil at the moment. Now, for anyone that's not clued up to the situation, we're going to have a chat about our opinions on it, but the general gist of it is that, as we know, GZDoom is a updated, modernized version of the Doom engine, but unfortunately it would seem that the person in charge of that seems to be quite... I don't want to say names, but they're not being a collaborator and being rather territorial about it. They've made some decisions recently that have caused controversy within the actual scene of GZDoom itself, to the point where people have openly stated that they are tired of dealing with this person's shit, and they are creating a new fork of it. The irony being that this person said, if you don't like what I'm doing, go create your own fork. So people went and did just that. It turns out, actually, that majority of GZDoom developers seem to have almost immediately jumped ship and are now embracing the new format, which I first heard about this controversy, Coven's Dead. Is it Nash? I believe Mahundez? I always feel like I'm going to mispronounce it. Mentioned it on Blue Sky, so I read into it. What's happened is that the developer of GZDoom essentially has put ChatGPT generated code into the actual, the language of it themselves, and it created controversy because all of the developers were like, well, now that opens us out to copyright issues. What if something happens where AI and copyright is regulated? That now affects any game that is created or updated with GZDoom. So we're just going to have a little chat in regards about this. So in terms of, gentlemen, for your opinions on this, do you think that the developer behind GZDoom, do you think that they were right to use ChatGPT to create something like this? Going from left to right, let's start with Medium.
Yeah, the specifics are a little fuzzy to me, but in general, ChatGPT is usually like the least offensive of the AI strains. It's more like generative AI that like scrapes much more specifically like art. So like something people created to be viewed in a certain way and have a certain effect. Whereas it's pretty easy to tell like if something is truthful or useful. Like you can oftentimes check what, like for instance, if you're creating resumes with a ChatGPT, those kinds of things. As long as you're kind of using it in that capacity, I can see where it would be easy to just go, all right, I can get a pretty good understanding of whether I'm doing something that is both like legal and helpful and like moral or whatever in my usage of AI.
Yeah.
So like if it was something a little bit more like generative AI does, where it scrapes a bunch of existing stuff that isn't just like, that's a good idea. It's not so abstract. It's literally like on screen. Yeah, I don't just with that, if that's all that's being done here, I think that probably isn't the biggest deal, because it can be really easy. Just go anything AI, I'm done, I'm out.
Yeah.
I think that would be an overreaction to do it just to ChatGPT, but again, the specifics of it may be a little bit more damning.
Yeah. The problem, of course, is that if there is regulation, it does affect every existing every ChatGPT game, GZDoom game. And with any future updates, it does as well. But it would appear from my perspective, and I want to give a shout out to Kirk Alex, his State of the Boom video was very educational on the subject as well. So anyone watching this, go watch his video on it as well. If you've made a game in GZDoom right now, do you think that people are going to be, scared about it? What if we get regulated into non-existence? Now, what if support for everything? He literally said to people, if you don't like what I'm doing, basically the gist of it, piss off. So they decided to piss off, What kind of person have you got to be to create a community where that happens, Deadforge, what do you think about it? If you were a developer right now, how would you be feeling?
Just kind of like Medium, the specifics of the whole situation involving, like, to what extent ChatGPT is being used, I guess, can really sway
I believe it was
the
code
way
that
that
was
I'm feeling
put
about
into
it or the way anybody's feeling about it.
Yeah.
He was just putting, like, normal code into it?
It was ChatGPT generated code that was put in there, yeah. So basically it's part of the build
I guess
of GZDoom now.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're generating generating code using ChatGPT, which kind of like what Medium said was, it's kind of like the lesser evil kind of situation with that. But I mean, if ChatGPT, if they did something where there's like copyright because you're using ChatGPT, you know what I mean? Like it's because it's a service type of thing, then obviously there's going to be issues because money's going to have to be paid, like extra money on GZDoom for creating these things to whatever extent that it is required. So I think that generating the code is not inherently a bad thing as long as, it's being done in a, normal way, that you're, whatever. But I think that for developers in the future or anybody still developing on it, if they did pass anything copyright related towards ChatGPT, then of course that would be an issue because then they're going to have to back pay this money or they're going to have to like owe money. There's going to be a whole legal thing in it. And so I think it's just it sounds like a shit show overall. I think that's the best way to put it. And I think that the developer behind GZDoom being so toxic and confrontational and very defensive in a negative kind of way to the point of pushing people away from using it to the point that they have to go and do their own, amalgamation of it that's completely separate. I think one is probably good for those doing that because then that keeps, freedom in the hands of somebody who may not be using ChatGPT, who may not be taking those risks so haphazardly. And I think that, in the long run, I think that AI is one of those things where eventually it's going to be used for a lot of things, and it's going to be used to speed up a lot of things. So I don't think that
whether people
necessarily
like it or not.
Is awful in every scenario, but I do think that when it comes to developing a game that's using something like that is not owned by the person who created the engine or owned by any developer, that's an issue because that's like an extra thing that needs to be paid for, that there's a whole set of circumstances around. So yeah, I mean, overall, I guess the best answer to the whole thing is just it's a shit show, and it just doesn't seem to be, it's not okay in the sense of like the way that they are, going about this scenario outside of the AI aspect. It sounds like they're being kind of like a Randy Pitchford.
It seems a bit like when you're making a YouTube video and you're like worried about using a soundtrack that might be copyrighted in the future kind of idea. I can empathize with it in that regard. If it's more of a, like, this is just sort of a dumb idea to unnecessarily, like, you're not future-proofing your stuff, right? If you're doing it that way, I guess is the idea.
Well, it shouldn't have been done really unless the law is settled on the subject, because he has put people's work in danger.
Well, I guess the idea is that is it like on the cusp of a ruling or something? Or you just assume
I don't know
that regardless because it's...
There are so many... A lot of people are saying that essentially AI falls under fair use. So just as us as YouTubers, we would take somebody else's gameplay or something, we would modify it, and then put it out, and then say, this is my product. what people are saying is that AI is essentially the same thing. It scrapes it, but you use it to generate something that you can claim as your own. The problem is that you can't claim copyright on anything AI generated. It has to be created by a human being to be able to be copyrighted. So it, and with GZDoom having this was it 2017 or something, it gained a public license, which is why you saw all the GZDoom games coming out in the last few years. It just kind of puts everything in jeopardy, essentially. But the thing that gets to me is that there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. And if people bring to you intelligence and criticism and say that this is what has happened, this is what could happen, you can put your hands up and be like, okay, cool, I hear where you're coming from. Let me change things around, and thank you for educating me. But again, without trying to point fingers at someone, I don't know the guy personally, Graf. He from everything that I've read, he seems to be very territorial and confrontational about GZDoom as his thing, and that essentially all things need to go through him and his approval. But you mentioned, before I cut you off, actually, I cut you off while you were talking about something, but I'll let you finish that train of thought. But I know there's been some YouTube AI issues that you've been talking about as well, so I don't know if you want to go into that as well.
But just for the AI moderation, but yeah, tons of channels are just getting clipped for really weird things like scam and copyright violations, where the AI is assuming that something they're doing is breaking copyright code or is a duplicate or a knockoff of something else. And it's just like, I've seen like 10 people, let's say, if not more, being like, yeah, nothing in my channel would even have the ability to be that. And the AI is misreading constantly and just axing them. And then when they appeal, they get an AI kickback. And you can tell based on the little location.
No humans involved, right?
Yeah. And as soon as they get a human, all of a sudden the problem goes away. Yeah. I mean, they're sitting there having to raise a huge stink about it. And there are people that are like, hey, my father's in intensive care for cancer or whatever it is. And you just cut off my revenue stream, at the most crucial time. These people could, just a million different, even to that, up to that drastic point kind of problems that could happen. Not to mention just, this shouldn't happen, period. Doesn't matter if I have every comfort in the world. This is ridiculous. Dude, I was kind of shocked to hear that it's just yet another idiotic implementation of an indirect thing. It's the reason you can't put your faith in AI as some type of world savior, because it's not a force of nature. It's just the sum total of how well you tell something to do it, which is the same thing as anything.
Of course.
No
The illusion of intelligence
around on its own. It only does as nefarious a thing as you give it the ability to do. It's not nefarious in any other way.
Yeah, I think that's what people kind of...
It's a bad effect, a wide-ranging...
Yeah. I think people get kind of confused that, AI is only as intelligent as the information that we give it, right? So that kind of stuff can only do what we are teaching it to do. And the issue with trying to detect AI using an AI is just... I mean, just saying it out loud is just a... it's just a...
I know. So
shit show of a thing. It's... Come on. AI is so unreliable with everything anyway. And even the images and other things that they generate look like ass. And so how can you trust them to be able to adequately see what is generated? Ass images. That's right. Yeah. It makes more sense, really, if you think about it. Because, it's just one of those things. It's just so stupid. And it shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be an AI-generated algorithmic scanning of everyone's YouTube to determine whether or not it's AI content. And then actually before the pre-show, Robert mentioned the whole thing in your YouTube settings where you have that option, is there any kind of I think it's AI, AI generated or modified content or whatever that you can hit yes or no. And it's among that list of things that some people might not even know exist in your settings because you have to hit the extra menu and go down. I don't know if that would even help, right? I don't even know if that would help the situation because maybe it's going to look over that. Does that just completely opt you out if you do that in a video? There's so many things that they probably don't even have answers to yet. They're probably like, oh shit, we don't even know.
And of course, the amount of channels that have like 230,000 subscribers plus. I mean, these aren't like just a bunch of knockoff channels that are sitting there just doing
it's big channels,
crappy content. They're like, I don't understand why I'm getting picked on. Like these are just people doing regular, everyday, established format content. That's clear.
They actually
nobody on their end is not getting paid to click on every single box on the upload, right?
Yeah. Are they actually just completely disappeared from existence, or is it like you've been given a warning sort of email? Or they literally just get gone?
Yeah, that's another thing that's kind of weird too, because I'm not even seeing the defense of like, hey, I know you've gotten on my case before, but this isn't that. It seems more like a one-time, like that you've done this, therefore you're gone. Which I guess is actually a good thing to think about, because it doesn't quite make sense to me how they could just do that if the reason that the AI tells them that they're gone is because of 3 strikes or something. But I don't think there's millions with 3 strikes, and nobody's complaining like, this isn't the 4th time, or something like. No one's saying that, so it seems more like very like we're just getting cut off at the knees, not resembling the charges at all. How does this keep happening, and why is it happening this wide of a
I think kind of the irony of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's worse than the usual situation where you get that random copyright claim or something. And I mentioned on Twitter in the last few days, I used to have a Facebook page and a YouTube channel. And the Facebook for the company that I had before the S35 network, and it was because of what happened to that I created the S35 network. There was a Facebook page that covered film, gaming, and television, all 3 of them together. It was like a mini IGN. And the same for the YouTube channel. Facebook deleted, out of the blue, that Facebook page, and it had 5,000 followers, and the same on my YouTube channel as well. I had 10k followers on there. This was long before I met you guys. Yeeted out of existence. Guess the reason what Facebook gave me for? Promoting weapons. I was reviewing film, gaming, and television, and they deleted it for promoting weapons. And I tried to contact them in regard to it, but just as you said, the whole thing is automated, not a single human being wants to talk to you. It's a case of, we made this decision, can you please fuck off? And I had to literally restart an entire company because of it. It's a dangerous world out there if you're a content creator, man. It really is. You're absolutely at the whim of everyone else. And part of me thinks that Second Wind really got it right. And they were like, you know what, fuck this shit, we're gone. If we fail, it's because of us, not because of some corporate conglomerate.
Yeah, but that kind of scenario only works when you have a pre-established fan base. When you already have a following. You can't do second wins and what's that other one with Colin Moriarty? Last Stand Media. That stuff doesn't happen without being. You can't just say, fuck it, I'm out, and make something if you don't already have a name.
This is true, yeah.
I was going to say the kind of ironic part is... Oh, yeah. Well, Escapist had an audience. The one Nick, whatever, main dude, he was with Gamimentary before he got to Escapist. And then they followed him there, and then they still had a falling out with one of the guys in Second Wind, and then that whole thing happened. But anywho, kind of back to what we were talking about with AI. I was going to say... Yeah, Frost. I would say the kind of irony behind it is that the AI accounts and YouTube channels and stuff, most of them are actually pretty small channels. Some of them are medium-sized channels, and they all fucking suck. And they have terrible like ratios, and they're not even that successful. What? So it's kind of funny that this AI algorithm is taking down successful channels pretty much exclusively. And not actually going after the small, half-assed AI-generated fucking channels that I have literally come across, recently. I was looking at the Outer Worlds 2 reviews, and there was one that was a straight-up AI-voiced, AI-edited, just full-on thing. I think it used real gameplay, but it was, all AI thing. And I think their intro was AI. It was just... I was like, God, this is awful. I couldn't even listen to it. It was so bad. And, that's still going to exist for a long time, I'm sure. It just shows the flaws in something, so you can't automate everything. There's things that AI can do, and there's things AI can't. But if you don't teach it how to properly do it and give it very strict guidelines, And it's you can't just be like, all right, the AI, I want you to detect AI, go for it, run. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's not really like, hey, go detect images that have like 8 fingers on one hand, kind of shit. You know what I mean? It's like you got to be very specific.
But speaking of dumbass decisions made by corporate entities that affect everyone that's not shareholders, next story that we have. So, Game Pass price hikes. Microsoft doing everything they can to fuck Xbox up. And I'm not being console warrior-ish and stuff like that. But I think it's probably for us as FPS gamers, and for me, who, when they announced this price hike, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go down to the middle tier because there's no way I'm paying that money for, the upper tier. And suddenly lost access to Doom the Dark Ages, where I was on the final boss. There are so many...
Day one release.
Exactly, yes. There are so many indie FPS
It's because it's
games
a high-profile
Game
game.
Pass and that sort of thing. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
That does suck because you'd think maybe there's like a not a statute of limitations, but like a period at which something is no longer a day one release. Like, right, because it's been out forever, however long. I guess if it's been a day one release, it's no longer available.
So Ultimate, it just pretty much covers the first party games and bigger games for the most part. I mean, like Atomfall was like a day one. It was day one on Game Pass, and it was only on Ultimate. Yeah. Any third party game that they do is typically on there. The stuff that's on like the lower tiers, all the way down to like the $10 tier, is all like typically somewhat older games, even of their own first party games, or smaller indie games. And then your breadth of variety and your options to play become smaller with the tiers. And it's very interesting because I was actually talking to now my brother-in-law. He was talking about the price hike because he already pays, I don't know if he pays monthly or yearly or whatever, so I think monthly, and they're still allowing him to have the previous like $15 price a month until next year, since he was already previously a member before it goes to 30 or something like that. And he was talking about, he's like, it's crazy, it feels wrong for it to be $30 a month. And I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, well, while I say yes, it is steep, once upon a time, Ultimate was $10. Ultimate was $12. Ultimate was $15. Ultimate was $20. And then, or whatever, 15 and then to 30. And I kind of try to look at it because Game Pass is basically a streaming service for video games. Streaming services continue to constantly up their price all the time. Yeah. The most expensive one, hands down, is Netflix. Netflix charges like literally $20 for the 4K package, and with no ads or whatever. It's $20, which is the most expensive streaming service out there. It does have other tiers that are lower quality or have ads. So, like, I think it's like HBO Max is like 15, Paramount's 12 or 15, 14 or something like that. They all vary. And a lot of them have ranges, right? Well, the comparison point here is that, like, okay, a streaming service, which let's just say, I mean, they have more movies than games, right? They have more TV shows than games. Shit's been around way longer. And it's been being a thing for way longer. Okay. But you can definitely watch more movies in a year than you can play video games in a year. And so, if you bring it down to, you're paying $30 a month now. That is the new price for Ultimate, which is getting the max amount of games, the day one releases, the early access to games, whatever, the first party stuff, and all these things. And you have like 200-300 games that you can play at any given time during the month that you have this. And an average indie game costs anywhere from average one on there is probably going to be anywhere between $10 and $30 for an indie. AA, you're looking at 30 to 50. AAA, it's obviously 70 plus now. So for $30, you could play 3 $10 indie games and you got your money's worth. You could play 1 AAA game that month and you have your money's worth. You could play 3 AAA games and just cancel it. You know what I mean? Like if you could play that many in a month. At the end of the day, it just depends on what it is. No, I'm not even saying a per hour basis. I'm just saying that it depends on the person. So it's like $30 a month is a lot of money, but it's also not a lot for what you're getting. So if you could play 3 indie games in a month that are $10 a piece if you tried to buy them by yourself, or you played 3 $20 indie games, regardless, for the price that you would have to pay outside of the membership, it's still cheaper. And if you play 1 AAA game, you're literally playing it for less than 50% off. And if you play it for 2 months, then you're still paying like 10% less than the full price of the AAA game for 2 months. Yeah. And I think you can beat 1 AAA game in 2 months, and that's $60. So it's cheaper either way. I mean, there's more I can say, but yeah, I'll let you guys go ahead.
I get where you're coming from, but how do you think that it's going to affect visibility for FPS games on there, both AAA and
FPS games?
Apparently, they lost $300 million on Call of Duty, and this is one of the things that led to the price increase because that executive, I've forgotten who reported on it, but apparently, Xbox head brass, I've forgotten her name, Amy something or other, said you guys now need to start making 30% margin, and the industry average is like 20%. And a lot of it was because of this Activision thing, and then they lost so much money on the last Call of Duty game that it's now affected the entire Game Pass and Xbox ecosystem, which now affects some of the smaller games that are coming to Game Pass and rely on it because they're going to have reduced audiences now.
Maybe.
Wasn't enough.
I mean, so I don't think...
To kill a tank or 2.
I don't think... So, like, indie and AA games are not being affected by the price hike or by anything remotely involved with Game Pass. Indie games are cheaper, and indie developers are getting paid X amount of money to be on there, and their margin for profit is significantly lower than like a AA or AAA studio. And any eyes on an indie is better than 0 eyes. So there's absolutely nothing in Game Pass, because like even if right now less people go and pay for it monthly, which I highly doubt that the number of people paying for it monthly is going to change at all. People are just going to keep paying for it, just like they keep paying for Netflix and they keep paying for everything else that they pay for. Because at the end of the day, they actually don't give a shit. They just want to complain about it.
Well,
I really do genuinely think that no one's going to change. Go ahead.
Let me hold you up there. Remember, the website crashed like the next week because of how many people were canceling, rushed to cancel just on principle alone, for no other reason.
Of the Xbox app?
Did
that happen right after the increase?
Crashing because people... Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't get on there to change the subscription because it was literally just not loading up on there. So it may not be people that are actually cancelling. Yeah. It could be people like me that were trying to change their subscription tier as well. But when you got that much traffic
that's obviously... Yeah. So, like, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that, like, nobody's going to, right? Billions of people exist on this planet, and a lot of people subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate. So obviously, a lot of people are going to go and they're going to cancel them in this way to boycott it. But I want to see how many people resubscribe, right? I want to see how many people are still subscribed right now. We can't see these numbers because these aren't public numbers. But at the end of the day, the whole point is that like people are going to sit here and complain about it because Game Pass is a newer thing. Video games are a different thing than movies. But streaming services charge the shit out of you all the time. So unless you're intelligently going through and choosing what it is that you watch from a streaming service and you're looking at this, but some people literally get a streaming service. They pay $20 and they watch one TV show. Okay. And then nothing. Some people literally do nothing but watch TV all day, every day. So just for the value, from Game Pass in general, I think value-wise, money to games to be able to play, you're saving shit tons of money to play all the best games every year, pretty much, and as well as a bunch of cool indies and AA that way. So I think overall, price-wise, even though it seems high, you're actually saving money if you are someone who wants to play a bunch of games. But if you're someone who's only going to play a couple games a year, just go buy those games. Don't get Game Pass. Just go buy those games.
Yeah.
Or just play them and cancel your membership. Now, as far as how it's going to affect games and stuff, I mean, since the very beginning, tons of people have been pretty vocal. Alex Hutchinson, when it came to Journey to the Savage Planet, when it first went on there, it didn't really help them. It actually kind of seemed to hinder their sales and how much they could get to.
Raph did as well.
Raphael said that when he launched day one on Game Pass, that it hurt his sales. It hurt his game. And yeah, they get paid a little bit here and there, and like it kind of how long it stays on there is determined by this. But of course, you never know. Like, even though if it hurt it in the short term, it also could have. It could have, like, in the case of Weird West and Journey to Savage Planet, they're both very kind of obscure games that not that many people played anyway. So I don't know if it would have really helped or hurt that much in the long run, regardless. Because both games, it's not like they sold a lot or did like stupid well or were considered these like masterpieces of video games of all time. But when it comes to like indies, any eyes is eyes. But when it comes to these bigger games, it does seem like profit-wise, Call of Duty and all these bigger games, that all this stuff, Microsoft's not making the money back because they're not selling as many of these big games because they're dropping them day one on Game Pass so that people will buy Game Pass.
Yeah.
And
which is
they went and they bought all these studios, so you have all this. Right. They have all this money that needs to be recouped, right? But you're not going to make all that money if you drop them day one on Game Pass. The smart thing to do would be every single first-party game, every single big AAA game, every first-party game by Xbox should release by itself as an Xbox temporary exclusive so that people go and buy it, and then, like 4 months later, kind of like a theatrical release, it releases on Game Pass Ultimate, and then those other big games, like the Atom Fall or some other game made by another studio that's not under Xbox, those can be day one Game Pass Ultimate exclusives because it's not hurting Microsoft's pocket except for whatever they give them flat rate.
Medium, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah. Something just came to mind. I've got other things to say too, but the probably has the same problem now where people complain that I'm just going to wait for the DVD release anyway.
Yeah.
Games are a little bit more maybe social, not just because of multiplayer, but like because you don't want to sit there and come with your anecdotes 3 months after everybody's stopped caring about X thing. So there probably is a little bit more of a push to get in, like the early release thing they've been doing recently. It's, in my opinion, been a way more successfully received pre-order bonus than just like we gave you an extra weapon and a skin type of crap that they've been doing for years.
Yeah.
So that's definitely been working. So there is some of that like FOMO bonus to be had.
I agree.
For sure.
I think there's something to that. I
But,
kind of feel
yeah,
like
I just
will have the same ability to be. I mean, gamers aren't naturally particularly patient people, but I feel like that would probably be something that they could handle. It's hard to say though, because let's look at these responses that people normally have for the Game Pass increase. It's just an immediate like, I ain't paying that much, and it's just like, you don't have to. No one can sit there and make you just. But if you were to say anything more than just like, I prefer not to, and then you look at like the value to money kind of thing, there's always this like unspoken kind of conflation where they pretend like they're saying it's not of good value when it's an impossibly good value just based off of like, if you like 2 things out of the 1,000 on there, you not only have way more value than you should have, you should shut the fuck up about it and never complain again, type of thing. But that's either not what we're saying at all, or you're just saying, I've gotten such a good deal to this point, that's why I was okay with it. As soon as it almost like starts to match in any way the value it's already giving you, like all of a sudden that's when it becomes too real or something. Because like I've seen a lot of people in my just around like Discord and stuff that just immediately recoil and go, I will never pay on principle alone. And it's like, well, where do you? There's no market.
What's the principle?
Assessment. There's no comparative
of course.
reason to assume that. It's just I don't like spending more money than I have to. It's like, well, then you're not who Game Pass was for anyway. Like these are you're pretending to give a shit about the process when you're complaining about the wrong thing. You're not worried about the value. You're just like, I don't think so. Because the argument that I don't get to keep a hold of my games is a little bit like beside the point too to me. If you like to hold on to your games anyway, you wouldn't be on Game Pass. Like, right?
Exactly.
That's also true of Steam as well, though. Of course, you don't own your Steam games. Yes, you could download the files, but the point you're making, which I agree with, is that if you subscribe to your Netflix or your Game Pass, you've already accepted up front that you're never going to own those games. So why would you complain when the prices are increased, but yet you're still getting orders of magnitude more value than you would? So I do get that.
Let me say one last thing before we exit off to that.
Yeah.
If you play a lot of games, right, the value is there for Game Pass Ultimate at $30 a month. If you want to play like a ton of games that year, you could you could spend it. You could pay for it for like 4 months, and you could play like a ton of games, and then just not pay for it for a while, and then play a ton of games. So it's like for me, like when Game Pass first started being a thing. I'm big on physical, so I still I buy physical games when given the option. And so when Game Pass first started being a thing, I literally would pay for Game Pass to test games. So I would just be like, okay, I'll pay for Game Pass for 1 month, and then I'm just going to test a bunch of games, see if they're worth the crap. And if I like them, I'll buy a physical copy of them. And then as it got more expensive, I would use Game Pass to save money on playing a bunch of indie games or something. I used it at the beginning of the year to play Indiana Jones, Sniper Elite Resistance, and Ninja Gaiden Black 2. Because I was like, I'm not buying all these games. So I'm going to just use Game Pass. I'm going to, as soon as Ninja Gaiden 2 Black launched, I was like, all right, Game Pass. Then I went and played all these games. And got my value in a month. I mean, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black was it took me a few days to beat. And then so my value for that month was, through the roof. And, and it just depends on who you are. It's like all the games that I wanted to play this year, I've already bought those games, right? The main games I wanted to play this year, I already bought them. So I didn't, I think there's only 2 of the games I wanted to play this year on Game Pass, The Outer Worlds 2, Atomfall. But I knew I was going to be playing The Outer Worlds 2 for this month and next month. I just went ahead and bought it. I'm going to replay it, whatever. So I just went ahead and bought it. I'd already bought Atomfall, all this stuff. So I'd already got that covered. So for me, Game Pass is not something that I want to pay for because I already know what I'm going to buy. And I'm not trying to play every AAA game in the year because I don't got that kind of time. So I just buy what I want to play and then I play what I want to play. And that's just, at the end of the day, it just depends on the person. I think it just, at the end of the day, it comes down to just your, what kind of gamer you are, or whatever it is you're feeling at that point in time.
Yeah.
I feel like just to put a pin in it, it feels like a lot of times the criticisms are independent of any intelligent ability to know why these things would ever happen in the first place, and then pretending that because all corporations are assholes and rah fight the power man, you kind of fake pretend you're a resistance faction in the world while just saying, you know what, I'd rather not spend $20 extra this month. And it's it's not that deep. You're pretending to have a cause. It's it's not even relevant to the reason you were tuned in the first place.
Yeah,
exactly. The value is preposterous. It always has been. If you're still paying for it,
I've been losing money for years.
Talking in the mirror to themselves and going, "It's worth it, man. It's worth it." you just gotta believe it. Like, if you don't think it's worth it, you're not gonna want
It's okay.
on a numbers basis. Like, it makes no fucking sense. Like, if you're just playing the Outer Worlds 2 this month, which is probably what I'm doing, that game's what, $70, $80? Even if it costs as much as an Xbox 360 game,
70. Yeah.
that's probably 40 hours. That's twice the value of what I paid. And if it doesn't make sense if I hold on to it forever. Maybe I just buy it, but it's like, duh,
Speaking of large corporations, in this case, Epic Games, once upon a time had this employee called Cliff Bleszinski, right? So, got involved in a game called Unreal. Yeah, guess what's coming back? Kind of. Unreal. So, Unreal Redux is a community mod remaster of the original Unreal game. And apparently Cliffy B is out there talking about how great it's going to be. And that this is what he told them to do when he left Epic Games, of course, before they all decided to cut out to China and Fortnite. So I fully agree, that it's an incredible thing to do. It's an absolute shit situation that modders have to do this because Epic Games have ignored, the legacy of Unreal, which is the house that built their empire. But do you think, though, that now that Turok is coming back, now that Painkiller's coming back, now that, Unreal is being reduxed, do you think that there's are we about to see an era, a revival of old FPS IPs?
Yeah, first off, that segue was unreal. Unreal. Good.
Cheers.
So I don't know what you're talking about. Give yourself some credit.
Yeah. I saw the trailer. It looks amazing.
More than you think, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of people would prefer Unreal Tournament come back rather than just the single player Unreal. But that's just because everyone gets to play with their friends again. I watched the trailer. It looks amazing. I saw the notes as to what's being changed. It's a very welcome addition back to it. And hopefully, of course, Saber Interactive can learn their lesson and realize that slapping an IP on a bullshit game doesn't make a fantastic experience. You ignore the people that built your empire, and you don't engage the people that are unfamiliar with the IP to begin with. So, what are you going to do with Turok? What do you think Saber should be doing with Turok? Should we be nervous about Turok?
Me and you had this whole discussion prior to starting recording, and everyone should be cautious of Turok. Everyone should boycott Painkiller because Painkiller is not Painkiller, and just like I told you, pre-show, when you take an IP and you remove the physics, the story, the world, the main character, and everything that makes that game, and you just strip it away and you turn it into a co-op game, which that's all Saber's been doing. Like we were talking about, like they've done World War Z and Evil Dead, and they're supposed to be working on Toxic Commando and all these things. And I think a lot of their projects are cool and they're great games, but you can't just take something that was what it was and then change it drastically. You can't make it into something else. They could have just tacked on like a crappy multiplayer mode or something. Yeah, Marathon. Oh man, that is a great example of something that's going to be fucking hot dog water.
Yeah. Apparently they're reworking it though based on the feedback. It's still not Marathon.
I don't care. It's gonna suck. It's gonna suck.
The development's a marathon. Hey.
I'll tell you why it's gonna suck. There's like nobody left at Bungie that's actually original Bungie. Most of them have went off to other places. Even the team that originally made Destiny isn't even the same team anymore. After they were bought by Activision, and then they went solo again, the amount of people that have, come and gone in that time period is kind of crazy. Marathon looks like ass. Painkiller's ass. I haven't even played it, but it's not good ass though. It's like bad, like nasty, stinky ass. You know what I mean?
It's not delicious. No.
And so to answer the question, Turok is, oh my god, man. Like I was telling you, it was a comic originally, and then an FPS. So really, they could do whatever they want, but they're just gonna make it another co-op game, and I think that's where they're going to mess up. But I hope, like I told you before, that they see the backlash of Painkiller, and they're like, okay, you know, at the very least, add like a story mode or something you can play solo. At the very least, I hope that they can learn that at least. Because I don't see them changing the perspective like at all, but I hope they do some kind of looking back, and because they just kind of like do these IPs that are already pre-established. You do them for like a year or two, and then they just throw them on a server, let them sit for a bit, then they shut them down, they go into the next thing. You know, I think Turok's doomed. You know, I don't think it's going to be better by the time it releases or anything. It's just a whole kind of shit show of a situation. And then to jump back to Unreal, I think it's cool. I think that we've always had this resurgence of retro revivals, and we constantly get remasters and remakes and reboots and stuff of classic games all the time, especially through Night Dive and such. That revival's been going on forever at this point. You know, Halo, Combat Evolved and Halo 2 have had their remasters in the past. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to start any kind of renaissance of just games being rebooted or reduxed at all, because it just happens every year. Like, it's just we do this stuff all the time. Night Dive's the kings of that, though, for sure.
But they do the job properly, though. You know you're getting a quality product with Night Dive, whereas with some others out there, Deus Ex, the remaster just looks like dog shit. It looks like ass, and I'm sure the developers, who no doubt are very talented, very hardworking, they look at it as well. You know, they're not blind to what's going on in terms of the reception to these things. I'm sure they're putting their point of view forward to upper management, saying, "Look at what's happening here. This is how we can improve things." But I'm really hoping that the remake of both Unreal comes out fantastic. I'm sure the Deus Ex 1 will be reworked. I hope, in agreement with you, that Sable learn their lesson from Painkiller, but I also hope that Painkiller comes back, like Painkiller comes back as well, you know? Because that is due.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we got Painted in Blood, right?
Wait, Painted in Blood? Yeah, you said beforehand that Painted in Blood looks like the Painkiller that we should have had, and I've played the game, and it's the Painkiller we should have had. You know, it's glorious. it's so glorious. Yeah. The combat is just sublime. The artwork is it's like something from a painting. It's a labor of love. And it's the sort of thing where 10 years from now,
Doom the Dark Ages is more Painkiller than the new Painkiller.
I agree. Yes. But I also think that that's because dark fantasy seems to be coming in again, you know, like fire and stuff like that.
But also they added the rivet gun, or like the impaler gun or whatever.
Yeah. It's really sweet. What do you think?
That Hellraiser game isn't co-op, to be honest with you.
This was mentioned before the episode.
Just because they're not the main.
What do you think about? Yeah. What do you think? How do you think that's looking and that's gonna turn out? Because I'm a Hellraiser fan, so I'm looking forward to it.
That looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought so.
It just has like personality, and you can tell, and I can see it being kind of like one of those like Lust from Beyond games where it's like just kind of like a try-hard walking simulator, but like Lust from Beyond, those kind of games, they look really exploitative and kind of stupid, and it's probably going to be reasonably pretty good, even if it maybe is like super linear or something. It looks like it's got enough going on where it'll be fun. I think I have pretty high hopes for that one.
Yeah, I think it looks really good. I think it looks
expectations will be good. That's the main thing. That's a good one.
Yeah, I think it looks cool. I think the new Halloween game looks cool. That it's like single player and also
a new Halloween game,
asymmetric multiplayer experience. Yeah,
right.
You mentioned something about developers that like make stuff. They kind of dump out, like they just sort of keep using the same formula on every single license
Gun Media
they get, and then they dump it after a while. And I was like, that sounds just like the Halloween thing that people are critiquing. It's like they did Predator and Friday the 13th, or at least people claim they do. I don't know super well, but
yeah. So, Ilphonic did Predator, Ghostbusters, and they helped on Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and they were part of the development of the Friday the 13th game. You know, Friday the 13th got messed up because of the legal issues, Predator and Ghostbusters are actually still supported to this day by Ilphonic in-house. Funny enough, and Killer Clowns has another primary
Which
developer,
Predator?
and
Hunting Grounds.
Hunting Grounds. And then, but Gun Media though, they went on to do Texas Chainsaw Massacre, promised a bunch of stuff, had no legal problems, and just dropped the game. And then they're involved with the Halloween game.
Right. I think that was the accusation I was talking about, was that people are kind of like, oh god,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that to my other favorite franchise. No.
Yeah, at least it has single player,
you know,
so that's like kind of better.
Well, single player is always better, in my opinion, but I'm of that generation that everything was single player, so it's simply built into our DNA that this is the format that we prefer. But, there is a game that is being remade at the moment, speaking of remakes, where unfortunately they had to drop the multiplayer, and they're only bringing out single player. Halo Combat Evolved is now being remade as Halo Campaign Evolved, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just putting out the first-person experience for it. There's no multiplayer. Do you guys think that Halo's coming back to full?
The fact that it's coming back at all again and again and again in these sort of iterative forms without really changing much or ever really evolving, past its, is evidence that it's too beloved to ever quite go away. But it's like it's not like a passion project in the right way yet to me. It just kind of seems like they're cannibalizing the corpse of the nostalgia that we all have for it, kind of going, I mean, it'll be enough like Halo where you'll probably have some good vibes, but it may kind of ick you out after a while, but you're like, I mean, kind of the same, but it's not quite. And because I think we're still really gonna have to admit that we just feel like Halo isn't just being parted along in this sort of let's do the bare minimum kind of thing to keep it going. Because I really liked Halo Infinite, as like repetitively put together as that was. It's the best gameplay in my opinion the thing's ever had. But I'm also not a Halo 1 through 3. I was never good at those. I was never like somebody that liked the really specific gameplay that it had. So something a little bit more accessible, from 4 on out, I'm probably gonna like it more anyway. But I felt like they were kind of going the right direction, but like there's just no direction over there, and it's hard to fault people for going back to the well over and over and over again, or at least thinking it's a smart idea to do it. To me, the way that new thing looks is not like some horribly offensive thing to my core. I don't know that it's gonna like reignite the feeling that people are gonna want it to, though. It just looks sort of, I don't know what this fidelity problem is with new games. It's not just like chasing the prettiest picture. It's how many times the art, and maybe it's just we put out too many games. Things can only look so different. There can only be so much uniqueness when we're just absolutely bludgeoning the market with stuff faster than we ever have. That may be part of it, but I think like a reason like Fallout 4 or something like that to me doesn't feel as good as other games is there's something like not as unique to me about the way it just looks. Like, I don't feel like it's as creative looking. It doesn't set itself out of my mind. The Outer Worlds 2 that I'm playing, for instance, does a much better job than the Outer Worlds 1 of looking similar. I can see how they're creatively related. There's just something like just a little bit more, just a little bit like a posture that it has, or just a kind of an X factor where it feels like it knows what it is better than it did before. And that may be the problem with these Halos, where it just sort of looks like a skin suit. Just a prettier skin suit, where it just looks like a product of its time and not like it's really one of the bros or something. It's not, it's detached from its roots in a way. I feel like that's just going to be the feeling that I have from it. Like, I don't need this. Kind of cool that it exists. I might play it, but there's nothing particularly like necessary, or why are we doing this again? I don't know.
Deadforge, I know you're a fan of the Halo series. You grew up with it. So what are your feelings on this game being, one, how do you feel about it in terms of how it looks? Or simply existing? How do you feel about them making a remake rather than a new game?
So, so I started Halo with Halo 2, right? and I later played Combat Evolved. But when I saw the announcement, it's not what I was expecting the first Halo Studios game to be. I thought the first game that they were going to do with this new reforged version of 343 or whatever was going to be a new title, because it just makes logical sense. Because Halo is a icon of gaming. Like, it doesn't need a trial period. It doesn't need a period where you test the waters to show that people still want to play it, right? It doesn't need this game. They're pulling it's like when they did the Modern Warfare 2 remaster of like the original game. It was just a port basically that was like 1080p, and it didn't have multiplayer. It was just the campaign, and it cost like a quarter of the cost of the full game. That's kind of like what it reminds me of, except the crazy part is that like Combat Evolved already had a remaster, so Campaign Evolved is just an enhanced remaster. It's just like, hey, we're doing it again, and it's even prettier now.
Like they did with Shadow of the Colossus.
And
it's the most
remastery
or remake possibly.
But it doesn't need to be done twice.
New assets, so it is a remake in the technical sense. It's not a touch up.
Yeah,
but it's trying to replicate beat for beat this and that for the most part.
Going down the Last of Us path.
Yeah, it's a remake without reimagining it in any way whatsoever. Whereas Combat Evolved Anniversary was just like kind of like a painted reskin, which I gotta say is gonna be better than this game. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta play the Combat Evolved Anniversary, that's gonna be better. The issue with this is like it is a remaster 2.0, but yes, it's more of a remake because it is quite literally just replacing things in the game with infinite assets. And I'm like, oh god, that's so stupid. It's taking out a lot of the character of a lot of things. I actually say the same thing about like that when they did the Gears of War Ultimate Edition and then the reloaded version, which I'm glad that like Gears of War is on PlayStation now. That's cool. But the reloaded version is just a port of the remastered version of the original game. And the remastered version of the original game did what every like remaster does wrong, which is like, all right, baby, let's turn up the resolution. Let's turn up the fucking saturation. Let's make this motherfucker bright as hell. And then they also did one thing that will always stick with me, and that's the cutscene where the helicopter is like crashing, and Marcus Phoenix looks up, and the original game he just kind of goes like, he just kind of like has a deadpan stare. And in the remaster, he goes, I'm like, that's so out of character. Like, he would never fucking do that. He would never go, ah! Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's not him. It doesn't make any fucking sense. But he does that in the remaster, and it just ruins everything. It's so stupid. And so this game is just that for me. It's like they're replacing assets. They're not like making the architecture that made the game alien and interesting look better and like keeping the general faithfulness of it. They're literally changing it with infinite assets, and it looks fucking terrible because of that. It does have that like weird sheen to it that I think Medium was kind of alluding to. It just has that like, it's kind of like an out of place kind of look to it. And I mean, I'm sure people will play it, it'll do all right, and maybe it'll get some people who've never played Combat Evolved into it. But the issue being is that like MCC is such an easily accessible game with all of the games together that you can not only get on Game Pass but PC. I mean, so there's no reason that you couldn't go back and play old Halo, And as far as like, yeah. No, you're
sorry. I thought you paused for a sec. I was going to just interject briefly, and I was like, oh no.
There's a slight delay.
The one thing that actually has changed is the fact that they've added the sprint and things like that, and I think they are trying. Maybe they're not making the actual scale super different, but I've actually heard. Have y'all seen the Twitter battles between? I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Is it Jamie Greisemer? Like one of the head guys, kind of the guy that's famous for that 30 seconds of fun Halo quotation. everybody references when they talk about like what made Halo good. But he's been going back and forth with people about why the new trailers and the new concept, new focus looks wrong to him. And he's not just like saying it feels wrong. He's like, this the reason this was there. Every piece of game design is not arbitrarily good or bad in and of itself, but there's a reason why this worked and why we kept it balanced that way and all that. And he had a pretty good breakdown of why he thinks that the new direction where you just sort of modernize everything into infinity is not that it's wrong to do, but it sort of defeats the purpose of the original art, like why it was put together that way.
Yeah.
Because I think people just assume that everything is just always on this.
Yeah, I think
line. We're always just getting better controls, better graphics.
Yeah.
And it's like some of those things are true, but some of those things, like the game could only exist the way it could exist for that time. So when you change it, it's not that it's wrong to do. It's just, is it as smart as the next thing? And maybe it's a little bit like the Game Pass.
Yeah, I think.
Well, you don't have to complain about it if it's not for you. Maybe people just want to not play that old slow version of Halo. You can just kind of go, all right, fine, whatever. But if you want to care, I think we're really talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't want to play it. I don't think it's going to be great. I don't think it's going to help Halo. I don't think it's going to be a return to form. I am not someone who's anti-sprint and stuff like that, but that's in new games, Infinite. It's in Halo, like 4 and 5. That makes sense. The game's designed around it, but when you add sprint to Combat Evolved, it just absolutely destroys the pacing. There's so many levels in those classic, like, 4 games, 1 to Reach, where the lack of mobility, the kind of slower movement progression, sets up set pieces and boss fights and encounters and surprises. And, like, the games, their whole layout and level design is designed around that. So when you can just sprint and mantle around the same general, like, stuff of the original, it's just going to take away from the entire experience. Maybe that won't matter to some people, but yeah, I mean, it's just going to, like, take away from what is Combat Evolved. So, I mean, I think it's just kind of a shit show. I think they should have just done another game. I think they should just do something, further.
All right, folks. I believe we're doing the competition next. So on that front, we have one Wizardom Steam key. Yeah, so like we've been doing, or similar to how we've been doing in the past, we're going to flash the code across the screen at some point in this video. So not the beginning, the end, and the middle, just somewhere. So you have to be very vigilant. And it's first come, first serve. So, if you're the first to get it, you're the first to type it in correctly, you will be the first one to get it. So search fast and often. May the best person win. Or the fastest.
The odds be forever in your favor, or whatever they say. Yeah.
They're the cool kids talk about.
Burning questions, gentlemen. So, unfortunately, our previous booked guest was not able to join us today. That means we have some burning questions that we have just hanging around. So, in a break from our usual format, we thought today we'd ask each other the questions. So, Medium, I'm going from left to right. Medium, how do you usually react if you receive bad service?
Okay, so I'm the person, they always say that, like, when you get married, always marry somebody that, like, does the opposite of what you do in those situations. Like, you're like, I'm not going to send this back, and they'll, like, throw it across the room and be like, get me another one, that kind of thing. I'm the person who's just like, I guess I made a mistake, and it's not too bad, so maybe I shouldn't say anything about it. I'm usually pretty forgiving just because not only, like, trying to be empathetic or sympathetic, but it's like I almost like hate having to explain the situation, and then it's almost like an OCD tendency or something that it's like if I raise it, I'm going to have to then be responsible for it going down correctly. Like I got to make sure I explain the problem. Yeah. Then it's like I don't want them to not fulfill my need right. So then I got to follow that fucking shit down, and then I'm going to be annoyed if they don't do that right. It's just like I just avoid the problem altogether if I don't do it. It's weird. I have gotten a little bit better about being more outspoken because I get called a conscientious, which is a psychology term. It's a trait. So apparently I am outspoken from time to time enough to be called that. But Yeah, I kind of demur, and then sometimes I'll kind of be like, give somebody some grace, and then I might, erupt a little bit, but not usually.
Nice. Deadforge, yours unfortunately isn't as interesting. So your question is, what destination is at the top of your list to visit?
I think that's a fairly interesting question. The number one place that I would like to visit is Egypt. It's my number one.
I don't know
place.
why. I thought immediately Egypt. As soon as you opened your mouth, I said he's going to say Egypt. Literally, the word Egypt appeared in my head. How weird. I totally just stole your thunder while you were trying to...
It is weird.
Yeah, what is it about
It's okay,
Egypt
yeah, no. Yeah, Egypt's... Man, it's kind of funny. So, like, I have, like, an affinity for water and for things like that. Like, I love the ocean. I prefer that as an interest over space or anything. But for some reason, the absolute opposite of that, the dry desert, right, is just as interesting to me. And the hidden things within it, and just like... But I've also always had an interest in, like, Egyptian mythology. The Mummy movie is one of my favorite movies of all time, and that movie and just the way they do the sets and everything just really captured my interest as a kid. Yeah. And so, I have this, like, dreamlike view of it, but I've also always thought that, like, Egyptian mythology is actually a bit more interesting than Greek mythology or Norse mythology. I think Norse is a little outplayed, and I think Greek, God, it's been put everywhere. But we don't really get much on, like, Egyptian mythology. Honestly, we don't get much on that.
Yeah.
We had one really shitty movie, Gods of Egypt, which I
Gods
still
of Egypt?
enjoyed. Yeah, I still enjoyed it because of it being Egyptian mythology, and, like, quite literally one of the only like movies to ever do that at all. So yeah, I found it to be an interesting movie. I actually own it. I own a physical copy of it, but I still think it's like one of the most CGI heavy, like, just hard movies to watch sometimes. Yeah. But it's kind of like a guilty pleasure kind of thing. It's like I shouldn't watch this, but it's kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
Did y'all hear about the Mummy 4 bringing back Brendan Fraser and Rachel?
I did, yeah.
I'm 100% down for that. Yeah.
Does that not sound?
I think that'd be
at least the best concept. Like,
which one of the two kids would they bring back, though? Because the Mummy Returns and the Mummy, the Dragon Emperor one, had two different actors.
Well, their
concept is that they're ignoring at least one of the sequels, if not both. I think it's just one, but it may be. I can't remember. What
they're ignoring 3, I think, and they're going off from 2, but ignoring 3 is what I saw.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's pretty reasonable because 3 was there.
Yeah, it's reasonable.
It was.
I still enjoyed The Mummy 3.
Movie. They just
but
I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed The Mummy 3, but it's still
hard to beat.
But that, like, even the second Mummy movie, the second Mummy is still not as good as the first.
I thought that it was a lot more.
Like, the second is decent.
The first one is iconic, though. The second is just an entertaining movie. Yeah.
So, Medium had mentioned something about how The Outer Worlds 2 does a pretty good job at staying true to the visuals of the first game. And I agree with this to an extent. Like, this is not like a disagreement statement. I agree that it stays as true to it as it possibly can in whatever this new version of Unreal that they're using. But it still, at times, has the issue of this weird, like, glossy sheen kind of thing that a lot of games have right now. Like, Avowed was pretty big, obviously that's the same engine. Kind of like the way the Campaign Evolved look. I mean, like, they just have this weird, like, polished toy-like look at times. Whereas something I kind of wish, like, I wish The Outer Worlds 2 looked just like the original. I mean, kept, like, the better faces and environment textures, but the actual texturing of the first game they look more textury. You know what I mean? It's like when you look at something, it looks like it's the texture of wood in that art style. It looks like it's whatever. It had an almost film grain like quality to it at times, whereas like the second one is very, while it still has some of that, it lacks the grit. I guess it lacks the grit of detail in certain things, and I feel like everything's a bit more polished. You know what I mean?
Have y'all noticed too that it seems like lighting is also a big deal in games these days? It's almost like the more generically realistic it looks, the more fake it looks. It's almost like it almost
well, like there's never any
it's not
real sources.
But it's the uncanny valley
so real,
effect.
but it kind of looks like it's almost like if you make an accurate version of something that's not quite real enough to be real, so that it's so close to reality that it's annoyingly not quite reality. And maybe that's like literally uncanny valley problems. And that I
Your
think
mind's
that maybe
telling
what I'm
you, of
reacting
course.
to as well. Yeah, it's like it looks so generically trying to be photorealistic that it's not interesting anymore because it's just not. So it needs to pitch itself in a slightly different way, and that's usually what The Outer Worlds in particular does a pretty good job of looking. Number one, the first game is not a game I would say looked photorealistic at any point. It was really trying to be. It knows it's a cartoon, right? That's good. Fallout 4 to me is not like some abysmal, ugly game, but it also does just subtle things with like color saturation that the Fallout 3 did really well, where it's like things pop, like the little green, menu things on the bottom just pop a lot better, whereas like it's a lot more, it feels like the color palette is a lot more, it's less contrasty. It's much more like colors right next to each other on the color wheel type of thing. Just little subtle decisions like that.
Yeah.
And then you got kind of that plasticky mold looking look to things where it's like they don't quite look like someone was willing to be weird with it. It's sort of more of a lowest common denominator. Let's not get too weird with it. We don't want to disconcert people and make them think of other franchises or something. I don't know. There's a million different things you could think of it, but there is some of that where you get caught up in this sort of like arms race that doesn't really benefit your art. And maybe it's just like bad art is like in now or something. I don't know. Like maybe that's why they train him, is just sort of trend towards that realism target. I don't know. Games look better back in the day because they were ugly, or they knew they didn't have the capacity to be. And yet something in your mind said, I had this really big shock one year. I used to play 2001 NBA Live, and I was convinced that was a realistic looking game. I played it about 5 years later. I couldn't tell what was going on. Like I was having to back away from the screen. I was having to do this, and I was like, I was having trouble figuring out where like the person, like if it was a white player and the court was kind of the same color, I was having trouble differentiating them. And like that was how hard it was to tell like what part of the body was moving across the court. It's just like a jersey. It's just weird stuff like that where it's like, it can be shocking how much your mind makes up the difference. You don't need like every detail spelled out for you. And sometimes it's not in your best interest to do so.
Yeah, take it from someone that used to watch television on a 14-inch screen in black and white. It's square. We used to think that it was the hottest shit imaginable, and then you look back and like even 10 years later, you're like, how on earth did I put up with that? It's just that's what the height of technology was at the time. So your mind is telling you it is the new hotness. It is the best thing possible.
Thanks for watching the Quad Damage Podcast. You can find me over at Lord RPG on X/Twitter, Deadforge on YouTube, and Patreon. Where can we find you, Medium?
Yeah, you can find me at YouTube, Midnight Medium. I believe on X I am a Midnight Medium. So just one of many, apparently. If you like what I do, you can also go to Patreon and support me there, or YouTube memberships, whatever you like to do. You can find me on there as well.
And, of course, Robert with all of Quad Damage.
All of you, I literally just read the tabs I've got here. So you can obviously catch us on YouTube, but don't forget, we have an affiliate store. We have a merchandise store. Join our membership so you get access to exclusive behind-the-scenes footage, like Deadforge's multiple attempts at trying to do an intro for this episode.
Give us money!
It does help though because we can expand.
We're the anti Dave Oshry. We love money.
I'll tell him that in the episode. We're also on Twitter and Blue Sky. We're on Twitter on Blue Sky at QuadDam Podcast. We are on Reddit at QuadDamage Podcast, and I think that's all.
So until next time, let's keep on booming.
On booming.